I know the world won't give me nothing, so I gotta take it. And I know it's a way we can win. Why won't nobody say it? It don't matter where we from, suburbs or the slums. They don't wanna see it winning. They'd rather keep us dumb. Could have a war, but we don't know how. Don't let them tell you that your vote don't count.
First thing first, you know back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws, they just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch, yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do, okay y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't never even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though. So you know how back in '08, when we all voted for Obama, we was all supposed to go back in 2010 and vote for the Congress. Cause they the ones make child support laws. They the ones choose if your kids at school get to eat steak or corn dogs. The state house make the court costs. So if the country failed, then you can't say it's them, it's your fault. Cause y'all ain't know to vote for Congress members that was for y'all. And they don't gotta leave after 4 years, and we just let them sit. See, they don't wanna tell you this, they want you to focus on the president. Now the third branch is the judicial, that's judges. They the reason why John Crawford and Trayvon ain't had justice. So when Meek Mill got locked up just for popping willies, we blame the judge and not the city when they let her get voted in, cause they ain't know who to vote against. Imagine life on the other side. Roads better, schools better, everybody get their license back, grocery store food better, custody of your kids back, homeless people get new shelters. If we gon' fix the U.S., we gotta start with them 2 letters. Me and you, somebody told us that the government wanna keep us broke, but the only reason why those people in the government is cause we ain't vote. And I ain't talking about the president, I'm talking about the ones we ain't know. See, they was gonna try to keep it low, but it's gonna hurt them when they see the polls.
I know the world won't give me nothing, so I gotta take it. And I know it's a way we can win. Why won't nobody say it? It don't matter where we from, suburbs or the slums. They don't wanna see us winning, they'd rather keep us dumb. Could have a war, but we don't know how. Don't let them tell you that your vote don't count.
Indeed, indeed. What it do, Frontline? We right back at you like we left something. What's up? It's your man, Q Phillips, one of the co-founders of Community Frontline. And we decided to come at you tonight to make sure that everyone is well educated on what we got going on tomorrow. So we had early voting going on the past couple of weeks. All that's over with. It is game time. Tomorrow is election day. And we want to make sure that as you go to the polls, you are educated on what it is that you are voting for. And we need everybody to get out there and go vote. Y'all know, like we know, if you are with us here in Fort Worth and Tarrant County, so too many times our voting numbers are abysmal, that we are not getting out there and allowing our voice to be heard. So since we know that you're going to do a good job tomorrow in Fort Worth and Tarrant County and get out there and vote, we want to make sure you know what's going on as you get out there. So again, my name is Q Phillips, one of the co-founders here at Community Frontline. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I am rocking with my bros tonight. Look at that. We got 2 noobs, 2 pharaohs on here. We get ready to do this thing. So let me go around and introduce who we got tonight. We have our business and economics coordinator. We got Mr. Elijah Strong. Elijah, say what up to your people, man.
What's up, Community Frontline? What's up? What's up?
Indeed, indeed. And then we also have that ice cold brother of Alpha Phi Alpha, the man with the beautiful black beard. My LB, that is Mr. Joshua Rivers, the coordinator for police and community relations with Community Frontline. Josh, say what up to your peoples, man.
What's happening, people? Frontline, it's always good to be back in front of
you. Indeed, indeed. And last but certainly not least, my brother, my co-founder, my president of this organization, the man with the pretty braids. It is Mr. Dante Williams. Dig, say what up to your peoples, man.
Know what up, Frontline? Let's educate the people, man.
Let's
and
educate.
educate ourselves
You ain't lying.
at the
So
same time.
this is educated for us. So, but we all learning together. So it's a beautiful thing. But like always, if you're tuning in right now live, I know sometimes people go back and check out our stuff a little bit later. But if you're tuning in live and you see in the stream on Facebook, by all means, please put whatever comments you have, whatever questions you have in the chat. My brother Dante monitors the chat throughout the duration of our conversation, and we would love for you to be able to chime in. Particularly, some of you may know a little bit about some of this that we don't, and we want the people to be able to know. This is community education. We doing it together. So if you know something about these positions, if you got things you want to be able to say, please put it out there, and Dante will throw some in for us tonight as we go along. But this probably won't be as long as some of our other forums. We really did just want to make sure that people knew that tomorrow is election day, that we do have responsibility. We got to get out there and get it. 7 to 7. Go make your voice be heard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight down the ballot, y'all. And so what we also want people to know is that you can go to the Tarrant County website and you can get all the information you need as far as where do you vote, what precinct you vote in, and you can even get your sample ballots. That's where we're coming from tonight. We're not doing nothing special. We're able to go online. We're able to see, hey, these are the ballots that we have, right? And we going down and we just simply trying to make sure we're educated on what's going on these particular ballots. So just know for every election that you vote in here, you can do that. The information is readily available for you. And this time when we're voting in the primary. So this is not the general election. The general election for these races will come up in November. That's when we will finally actually select the person who's going to take this office. The primary, in which we're voting in tomorrow, and what we've been doing early voting in for the last couple of weeks, is who's going to represent on each side of the ballot, the Republican side and the Democratic side of the ballot. And so that's what you're going tomorrow to vote for, is in the primary. So don't think if you go tomorrow, hey, I cast my ballot, I did my thing, I'm done. No, you just made sure that your voice was heard about who's going to represent on what side. You got to go back in November and go finish this thing up and get our actual elected official in office. In the meantime, in between time, we'll also have a special election that's going to come up in May. That special election is going to be school board for sure. So that's going to be Fort Worth ISD. That's going to be school board place 4. So if you live in that is like the ODY pyramid, the South Side, you'll be able to go and vote for who your elected official is going to be on your school board, and there'll be some other things on that ballot as well. Not sure if anybody else knows what else is going to be on that ballot along with school board. Josh, you have any idea about that?
It might be a city council race in 4 as well. If you live outside of Fort Worth, there's some different school board races in Arlington and Mansfield, but typically those are initiatives, school board races, and you definitely gonna have the school board race elected for the special initiative. So
absolutely. So you going tomorrow to vote if you ain't already voting early voting. I know you didn't. I already looked at the numbers. So you going tomorrow to vote in the primary. You back doing that thing in May to go vote for those school boards, for those initiatives, for those other things, and you finishing the job in November of actually selecting who's going to represent us in the offices that we're going to go through tonight. So we just making sure that we clear. Community Frontline will definitely keep you up on all those dates. You can check any of our platforms, and we'll definitely be letting you know that it is time to go vote. So for tonight, let's just go ahead and go down and see what we got popping on the election that you're going to vote in tomorrow. And so the very first place you're going to see on your ballot tomorrow is United States Representative. United States Representative. So on the Republican side of that ballot for United States Representative, we have Patrick David Gillespie, and we have Robert McGlaughlin. Hopefully I said those things right, but those will be the two you see on the Republican side if you go and vote in the Republican primary. You have to choose one. You don't get to vote in both. So either you go on and get in the Republican ballot and voting for that primary, or you're going to get a Democratic ballot and you vote in that primary. If you get the Democratic ballot, you'll be voting for either Carlos Quintanilla or you'll be voting for Mark Vesey. So that's United States State Representative. So Elijah, inform people on what the U.S. State Representative does, man.
Yes. So your U.S. reps, we know that there's 3 levels of government. You have federal, state, and local. And so this is one of your federal representatives. And what they do is they write propose and vote on laws that not only affect what happens to us in state, but federally. And so that's kind of what the U.S. representative focus on. So you have your House and then you have your Senate. So that'll be kind of get around your congressional representative and, building. And I know for y'all is Mark, for District 33, that covers incumbent Mark Vesey. But when you vote on the ballot, you may have someone different depending on what district you may be in. So there's a few races happening in our area. So it's definitely important that we vote on that issue because that kind of concerns all things federal as it relates to laws, legalization of marijuana, all types of things, abortion laws. So yeah, it's limitless when it comes to the laws that the U.S. reps vote on. So definitely important.
Love that, man. And you hit a really major point. I'm glad you did. That was good stuff because again, these ballots that I pulled, I put in my information to go get my sample ballots. And I'm on the east side of Fort Worth, Texas. So if you live on the area I live in, these will be the people that you're voting for. If you're watching this in another area, you might have completely different people that you need to vote for. Now, these positions will be on the ballot, right? But it might be different people who are running in different areas for different positions. So that's why you want to make sure that you check your own. But again, whether you check it or not this evening, you'll know what the positions are at least. And then when you get there tomorrow, you'll be able to make your choice as far as who those people are going to be. But we always encourage informed voters. So please, 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 please try to go do your homework so you know who you're talking about when you get ready to get in there. So yeah, so that is United States representatives. So these are the people that we send to DC to rep on our behalf. So we want to make sure that our voice is heard on who that is going to be. All right. Anything on U.S. Representative before we move forward, good fellas? Any commentary there? All hearts and minds looking clear. All right. So now we're gonna move inward to the state of Texas now, because again, we vote on the U.S. representative. That's the person that is local, but that we send to DC to advocate on our behalf to help with the lawmaking process out there. Now we're moving back into the state of Texas, and the person who is overseeing the state of Texas is governor. So, Josh, let people know, what is the governor, man? What does the governor do?
So the governor is the executive officer of our state. Simply put, they sign the laws. They enforce the law. He is in charge of, he or she may be in charge of the military, the policing, the special session. Basically, that position oversees the functioning of our state. Now, he has a lot of people and a lot of committees that can help him do a lot of those jobs, but specifically, it all comes through that executive branch, and it's very similar to what the president does on the federal level. He just does it on a very smaller scale within our boundaries of our state. He's elected for 4 years, and it used to be for like term limits, but I think you can do it 3 now. So that'd be 4 years, and another 4 years if you get elected, something like that.
Indeed. And so those who will be running for governor, and this is for the entire state of Texas. So if you go, no matter where you vote in Texas, you'll be voting for these folks. On the Democratic side, it will be Beto O'Rourke, Michael Cooper, Joy Diaz, Ignacio Eno, Barrentez. Man, I probably messed it up. Barrentez, I believe. Barrientez. That's who there's going to be. And Rich Wakely. That's on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, you got Paul Billu, Candy K. Horn, Rick Perry, Don Humphrey. Hold on, Rick Perry, like used to be governor. Rick Perry. Oh yeah. He ran for governor again. So. I didn't know that. How would I know if the former governor of Texas is running for governor again? I ain't seen nothing. No ad, no billboard. I ain't seen a TV come on. Okay, Rick Perry. Throw your name back out there. All right, Don Huffines, Chad Prather, Alan B.
Car
West.
man, ain't it?
Huh?
Ain't Don Huffines, that's the car man? That's the dealership?
Car man. Yep.
That's the car man. Look at that.
Yep. Alan B. West,
Hey, that's
Danny
a different
Harrison.
Rick, bro.
That's a different Rick.
It's a different Rick, not the same Rick Perry. Yeah,
Not
different
the
Rick.
same Rick.
No,
Okay, I'm
but-
like, yeah, because if you think Rick Perry running for governor again, you would know about
You
that.
don't know.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
All right. You know, he got some money to throw around in the race. All right. And then, of course, Greg Abbott, who is our governor now. He's on the Republican side of the ballot. So there's plenty of options to be able to choose from when they come to governor. Like, go and have your pick. And shout out to Misha Davis. Thank you for joining in with us for sure. Misha put out there, she uses ballotpedia.org to read about the individuals running for each office. So yeah, ballotpedia.org is a good resource to be able to go find out. Now, folks on Ballotpedia, I believe, do have to register, but most folks understand they're running for office. That's a good spot for them to register because people are going to go there to be able to find out about their platforms and everything. So yeah, that's a really good resource. Thank you so much, Misha. So yeah, so governor, big boss of the state, like Josh was talking about. We gonna see the governor one way or another. And even when we read these names off, most people are familiar with some of those names. So even like Dante said, you heard her fines. Like, oh, I know her fines. Rick Perry. Well, I thought Rick Perry. I was like, yeah, that's funny. You running again? Don't like no, but clearly another Rick Perry. Now, like, see, that's why we're doing this so we can learn. All right. Alan West is usually a name that we might know around the state of Texas. He's done a lot of work here. And then Greg Abbott, of course, our current governor. And then, so we in Beto O'Rourke is a name that we hear a lot as well. So, you're going to know some of these people as you go in. Michael Cooper, I believe Michael ran for governor last term as well. So you're going to know some of these names, but yes, please, by all means, whether it's Ballotpedia, whatever it is, go get to know who some of these folks are and go cast their ballot. And so underneath governor is lieutenant governor. All right. And so on the Republican side for the lieutenant governor, we have Daniel Miller, Dan Patrick, Zach Vance, Aaron Sorrells, Trace Bradford, and Todd M. Bullis. That's on the Republican side for lieutenant governor. And then on the Democratic side, we have Mike Collier, Michelle Beckley, and Carla Braley. All right. So Josh, what is the lieutenant governor, man? What they do?
So lieutenant governor, think of it as a vice governor almost. But the difference being, how on the federal level, the governor or the president and the vice president runs together on one ticket. But in Texas, we vote for those specific offices separately. The office has the power to fill in for the president, and then he is on over 70 committees and boards throughout the state legislature. So he gets to oversee or be on a board for over 70 different issues. So basically, this position is a stopgap to get to the governor's office for bills and elected laws that might, no, I don't like this. The governor don't like this. We just don't want to do it. So this person has a lot of power and leeway within the structure of our state Senate, as well as filling in for the governor should he be incapacitated or out of the state for the exact same things that the governors can do.
Yo, so appreciate that, Josh. So you brought up something real interesting, man, that I didn't think about till you just said it for real. All my years of following all this stuff. Like you said, so like for the president of the United States and for the vice president, they run on a ticket. So when you go and cast your vote for, Donald Trump, you also casting your vote for Mike Pence. When you voted for Joe Biden, you were voted for Kamala Harris simultaneously. So when you got a governor and lieutenant governor, you're voting for these as two separate positions.
Yes.
So in y'all's estimation, and I'm like, this is really me thinking through right now, which is better? Should we be voting for like the way we do for governor, separate for governor, lieutenant governor, or should we be voting ticket like we do for the presidency and the vice presidency?
I want to hear what y'all say, but I know I definitely because I got an opinion on this one. I got a strong opinion on this.
I like strong opinion. You give us opinions.
Go for it. Both of y'all strong opinions. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so man, I guess I would kind of leave it like it is, but like for me, I do think on a presidential level, yes, because I mean, I think at every level of representation, you kind of just like, we may have different beliefs and viewpoints, and so like, you may have one type of party in office at one level, but if you can vote in that person at another level, for instance, lieutenant governor, those values can align with mine. And so if that person is as progressive as they say that they are, we know that they're not just going to subject themselves to what the governor says, but are actually like, hey, I'm an advocate for this, and this is what I want. This is what we need to see within our communities. And so I definitely would I would want to see that at a presidential level as well. Like just having an opportunity to run, I think it'll kind of just bring some more complexities, but be interesting to say.
Those make things interesting. Yeah, Josh.
It would be. So quick history lesson. I promise it won't be long. Originally, it wasn't set up like this. It was set up to be the president, and the person who comes in second was the vice president. So y'all can see how crazy that would be if dude loses and he just so happened to have an unfortunate accident and now I'm president. So they was really doing some stuff like that. So they figured out some stuff and they was like, hey, we can't do that no more because obvious reasons, can't trust it type stuff. And then they started to run, okay, well, what if we pick a team and then they stay on the same kind of ideal level? Typically, the president or the person on the top of the ticket can pick whatever person they want, but it almost always falls into the same ideological team. Some cases on the federal level, we've seen differently. Here in our state, it almost always falls on the same ideological team. So when we vote for two different people, the accountability is wonderful because we are voting for two different people and we can actually say, I voted for this person or I didn't vote for this person. But at the same time, it's almost like we really are kind of not getting much done on either way. So my opinion would be, I like it like it is in our state, simply because I get to choose that person that's representing and that could be coming in second, as opposed to the presidential level where I might not like that vice president person. So I do like it how it is in our state, but in actuality, it probably won't get very much different because of the person that's running on top of the ticket is going to endorse the person that's really closely aligned to him.
Sure. What you think, Dig?
I like chaos. So
the original plan, second place, you vice president, runner up.
That's right. Yeah, just organized chaos, man. So
it was chaos.
I like how just to have the chance to say, hey, man, you got a Republican and a Democrat, governor or lieutenant governor.
Right.
Figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Just figure it out. So no, I like that setup. I like it that way, just because it does allow for. Hopefully that's why it was set up, man. But just ultimately, you get people in the room and you force them to actually work together. Hopefully, and one doesn't have. I guess the governor has power over the lieutenant governor, but there are some areas where it's not so much. So it forces you to kind of have to work together. So I like the setup. But obviously, kind of in the state, it always kind of aligns with kind of what Josh said. It doesn't veer too far from, whoever's governor is typically, that party is probably going to fall to lieutenant governor as well. So,
right. Because I was trying to think of any example.
I think it's different though. I think I knew that, but I never kind of put it into the conversation like we're having right now. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
I have one more comment. I think it kind of just like really dilutes some of the things that should not be partisan. Like if we were to see, if it be a Republican and Democrat that's taking on that, I think there's a lot of division in our state, and I think everyone can agree on that. But if some things should just not be partisan related, education, access to healthcare, and when you can diversify something like that, like you can agree on some other things. Quit laughing. I don't know what's funny, but
I laugh because I love her, man. If only. If only these things were actually nonpartisan the way they were supposed to be. They are not. But I got you. I feel you. I'm with you. Especially in education, boy, let me tell you.
Right.
Yeah, man. No, you're right on it though. And I agree. And so usually I'm not a fence rider. I'm really good at picking the side. This one, because it's funny, because I can see having a ticket mate, having someone there so you can have someone that you can trust, that y'all can ride, y'all can go do this thing together, accomplish some things. And then I like the possible checks and balance aspect of, you know, you ain't run with somebody, you ran on your own, the other person that's right there with you ran on their own, and now y'all gotta go work the thing out. But again, I haven't thought of any example, and I haven't looked deeply into it, where there was opposing parties that got these two offices. I mean, I would think that if you elect a Republican governor, a Republican lieutenant governor is coming as well, or vice versa with Democrats. So yeah, just interesting. That's it. That's super interesting. I appreciate that, Josh. So let's move on to Attorney General, fellas. And so Elijah's gonna hit us with that, but really quickly before Elijah let us know what Attorney General is, let's see who's on the ballot that we have. And again, this one is for the whole state, so this will be on your ballot as well. These exact people. So for the Democratic side, we have, Mike Fields, we have Joe Jaworski, we have Rochelle Mercedes Garza, we have S. T-Bone Rayner, and we have Lee Merritt. All right, and then on the other side for the Republican ballot, we have Ken Paxton, Eva Guzman, George P. Bush, and Louis Gohmert. Elijah, let the folks know what Attorney General is.
All right, back to the first point, you have kind of just three aspects of government. You have your state, federal, and local. So your Attorney General kind of focusing on the Texas, it will be your state level. So, you know, the role of the Texas Attorney General is to enforce all the laws of Texas, and make sure, you know, just kind of we're operating within that window of whatever legislators, you know, can construct those laws and build upon around that. And so the objective of the Texas Attorney General is to enforce those laws and prosecute if he see fit to in an event that someone, you know, disobeys or goes against those laws. So
word to it. So yeah. So this is an interesting race too, man. When I'm looking at the names, you know, Josh talking about the George Bush name. So George P. Bush, yes, I believe that's nephew to former President George Bush. I believe he's definitely a Bush. He's one of them. He's like the George Bush. So he's the young version. But he currently is an ag commissioner, or he might be the one that's the one I'm telling you about the minute that we find out about. But of course, he's running for Attorney General instead. So, I mean, name recognition is there. Eva Guzman, name recognition is there because she's a judge already. And so clearly she's running for Attorney General. So she's already been a judge in Texas. Ken Paxton, our current Attorney General. So, I mean, there's a lot of name recognition, particularly on that Republican side. Then, of course, Lee Merritt on the Democratic side, a national name, particularly with some of the families that he's worked with that have gone through tragedy, particularly police shootings. So you actually got some recognizable names on both sides of the ballot when it comes to Attorney General. So, yeah. So Misha chimed in for us again. Today I read that some people vote for the opposing party ticket during the primary to steer who will run against their candidate in November. And so, yes, that is a thing. Yes, that is absolutely a thing. So you play it how you want to play it. I don't know. All I do is tell you to vote. That's all we want to do at Community Frontline. Which way you go vote is up to you. Which primary you want to vote in, all that is completely on you. But yes, absolutely. We definitely have heard of people doing that. So yes, Ann Bush is the current land commissioner. So thank you for that, Misha. We really appreciate you riding with us. So yeah, anything else on Attorney General? I think Elijah broke that down well for us. If not, oh man.
Who's the current Attorney General?
Current Attorney General is Ken Paxton.
Ken Paxton.
So yeah, he's running.
There was some controversy with him last year, this year. Yes. Yeah. Okay. We don't have to get into it.
For Lieutenant Governor, we got some controversy all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the controversy is strong. Yes. So Dante, with his educated self, and he do have wonderful education because he is a Dunmore Wildcat and a Prairie View Panther, so I do vouch for that criteria. But he's about to tell us about something I had absolutely no idea about before we decided to do this, which is Comptroller of Public Accounts. All right, and so who you have on the Republican side? Mark V. Golby, Goloby, Goloby, I believe, and Glenn Hager. On the Democratic side, you got Janet T. Dudding, Tim Mahoney, and Angel Luis Vega for Comptroller of Public Accounts. Dig, what is Comptroller of Public Accounts, brother?
Yep. No, so I'm gonna just read it straight off, man. So if you do your taxes, if you own a business, if you pretty much anything dealing with taxes and money, the comptroller office, they serve virtually pretty much everybody in the state, right? They are Texas's chief tax collector, accountant, revenue estimator, treasurer, purchasing manager. The agency is responsible for writing the checks and keeping the books for the state of Texas. So pretty much there are, what is it, CEO, chief financial executive officer. So in any money that comes in, that comes and goes out of the state, they are responsible for that. Big money.
All the sense of the world. And so we joked a little bit, but comptroller particularly, I know for me, and I know for many people, that's one of them positions that you see, right? That you see around every once in a while. So you might, whether it be on a document that may come to your home, like you talked about paying certain things you might be paying to the comptroller and I didn't realize. So it's definitely important, particularly when you give your money to it, because like I said, most people have at least heard of comptroller, right? But now, understanding that we vote for that person, right? So they're doing that. So we need to be up on that. So I'm glad we're doing this, because they help me realize, like, yeah, I might need to be up on what's going on there, because it might be one of them I'm overlooking, but the positional power could absolutely be immense. So allow us to use for sanctions, man.
Yeah, and kind of just to like pivot from that, and I think that's why there's a need for civic education within our communities. Is definitely not something that's prioritized. But if you're someone like me who is in the realm of a first voter, and you go into like this facility and you're like, oh, well, you need to take this piece of paper, go to the Democratic side, put it in and vote. And I'm seeing all these positions. I'm like, I've never heard of this before. And so then where you kind of see in some communities, it's problematic to vote down the ballot, because you can be very disinterested fast if you do not know what these positions are, which is why we have to take time to be educated about them and as informed as possible. So not only do we know what those, positions are and what they do, and how they, control the governance in our in Texas, locally and federally, but we also need to be informed on who are running for those positions, so we can make a wise and an informed decision on who we're contributing to, who will be in office. So I think that's definitely important.
Straight up, yeah, man.
Yeah,
Right on.
and I think the comptroller gets paid easily 6 figures. So there you go.
Yeah, I heard. Straight up. All right, well, gentlemen, we're going to move
and let me say this too. So as a
go
small
ahead.
business, and thank you, Misha, for pointing that out too. So right, so a lot of what I learned about the comptroller too is through owning and doing small business. Is that's where you go pay your taxes, file your taxes, your sales tax. All of that is through the comptroller's office. So a lot of what we do as small business owners is ran through that department. So it's definitely important.
Indeed, straight up. All right. So next on our ballot, y'all, we got Commissioner of the General Land Office. Again, not something that many of us know about. I won't speak for anybody else. Not much I knew about before us trying to make sure that we not only educated ourselves, but educated our people out there. So Commissioner of the General Land Office. So as far as on your ballot, on the Republican side, you have Don W. Minton, you have Tim Wesley, Ben Armenta, Weston Martinez, Victor Avila, Don Buckingham, John Spires, Rufus Lopez, and that's on the Republican side of the ballot. On the Democratic side of the ballot, you got Michael Lang, Jenny Sue, Jay Kleberg, and Sandra Grace Martinez. So that's who you will be voting for when it comes to Commissioner of General Land Office. And so the Commissioner of General Land Office is the oldest state agency in Texas, established by the Texas Constitution. We learn something new every day. I had no idea that was the case. All right, and so The land commissioner is responsible for to ensure Texas veterans get benefits they've earned, oversees investments that earn billions of dollars for public education, and manages state lands to produce the oil and gas that is helping make America energy independent. Right? So this is coming from directly from the Texas General Land Office website as far as what they do and what they oversee. And so I know so they still do things when it comes to public education dollars. For a while, the land commissioner was overseeing those funds directly. Now that's more of a function with the Texas Education Agency, the State Board of Education, but yet and still that runs through the land commissioner's office and then it's overseen by those. So again, important folks making really big decisions for things that affect us locally at home. Right, and so we need to make sure we know who's up for that. So yeah, thank you, Misha. Misha put in there kind of exactly what we were talking about veterans, money for public schools, oil and natural gas. So yes, and so that is what the commissioner of the General Land Office is going to do. So you know who those folks are now. Look them up. That's a lot of positional power. That's dealing with a lot of money. All right. Now we move to Commissioner of Agriculture. On your ballot for the Democratic side, you got Susan Hayes and you got Ed Ireson. On the Republican side, you got Carrie A. Council, James White, and Sid Miller. All right. And so that's for Commissioner of Agriculture. Elijah, tell the folks what it is, man.
Yeah, so it's exactly how it sounds. And like, yeah, so they just commission the agriculture, and that's kind of just everything related.
You can't define a word with a word.
The agricultural life in Texas, kind of just like the opportunities, the jobs around it. So I know like a big controversial topic, not just in Texas, but federal, is the legalization of marijuana. And so when you kind of look at something like that, when you look at who is the commissioner of agriculture, that's the individual who will say, hey, this is how we can be able to implement this in Texas. This is how it can work. And as this topic continues to trend, especially in areas like the U.S. Attorney General and the Texas Attorney General, as they begin to decriminalize, if we can get people in office who care about all citizens and decriminalizing marijuana, then you can't talk about decriminalizing without legalizing. And so the action of legalizing is dealing with the Commissioner of Agriculture and what that looks like for Texas. Because it can be easily said on like, okay, well, we need to legalize marijuana, but what does it look like as it relates to agriculture in Texas? And a lot of people don't think, well, Texas have never, grown marijuana. And so there has to be a way to like implement that, as it relates to, land and all of the opportunities that kind of just deals with building it, the climate, and things of that sort, and then creating jobs for it. And so that would be a topic or just like an example of what the Commissioner of Agriculture will be responsible for. And like I said, I think it's a need to, particularly like showcase that topic, because it's something that is going to continue to be a hot topic, and definitely is going to be a conversation as we progress in Texas. So.
Real deal, appreciate that. And so yeah, man. And so you use legalization of marijuana twice. So you trying to tell us something? You trying to get this blood to get free at you? I understand. It's all good. If it get legal, I smoke with you, though. Ain't worry about it. All right, good deal, y'all. I said if it get legal, now they're going to be smoking bud. I ain't smoking right now. All right. So, no, that's good stuff, man. I really appreciate it. So that's Commissioner of Agriculture. All right, now you know who them folks are. We're going to move on to the Railroad Commissioner. Now, most of us really have heard of this. Still don't mean we know what to do, but we have seen this on our ballot many times. We hear about this around, right? But now we get to really figure out the Railroad Commissioner and what to do. So let's talk about who's on the ballot really quickly. So on the Democratic side, you have one name, Luke Warford. All right. So that means that Luke is the guy. In November, he'll be right back on the ballot. He'll be representing the Democratic side. You do have a race on the Republican side, though. You have Wayne Christian. You have Dwayne Tipton. You have Sarah Strongner, Tom Slocum Jr., You have Marvin Sarge Summers on the Republican side for Railroad Commissioner. Josh, what is the Railroad Commissioner?
Hey, so this is a commission made up of 3 members. Now, every so often, one person will be on the ballot, so we can continuously get a person to make sure we are represented. So this commission oversees, when you think of it, you think of like railroad tracks. Well, think about more of what's on those railroads, specifically natural gas or energy, because you know Texas is one of the biggest energy producing states. So natural gas, oil. They were talking about uranium for the common sense is nuclear power. Nuclear power is important for people in Fort Worth because we're one of the few people in this area with a nuclear power plant right here on the east side. So this commission oversees the policies, procedures, practices that how do we transport it? How do we move it? How do we actually develop it? And what are the safest ways in most cases to get stuff done? Now, it doesn't deal necessarily with the money because that we talked about the commission that oversees how the stuff takes money. These are specifically the people who are best practices. How do we get it done? I think this is something that I would like to know myself. I was trying to figure out if that would include electricity too, because that if that is the case, that would be the people who make sure your lights stay on when it's a winter storm. It's the same type of practices just like that. So your natural gas for the people who have gas stoves, it don't work. These are the people who oversee why it's not working, what's going on and stuff like that.
Love that, man. And I think that I don't know if it was last time we did one of these when we were talking about the different positions, because I don't know if it was on the ballot at the time. I definitely remember having a conversation about Railroad Commission where somebody basically just pointed out what you just pointed out, that it flies under the radar because people just think in the terms of railroad, right? And so if that's and with that not being a primary mode of transportation as much as it once was, it's more out of sight, out of mind. It flies on the radar. But Railroad Commission got so much more to do with a whole slew of other things other than just simply the railroad within itself. So no, good stuff, man. Indeed. All right. So with each one of those that we just went through, y'all, is those are the ones that are statewide. So no matter where your ballot, no matter what precinct you're voting in, when you go tomorrow, you're going to see those on your ballot. You're going to see those people on your ballot in which you get to vote for, because those are statewide offices in which you will be voting for. Now, these will be more that, even though these will be on your ballot, this is where your people will change depending upon where you live, right? Because you might have different people running for different precincts, different divisions, different districts, and all that kind of stuff when it comes to some of these other ones, all right? So next up, we got the State Board of Education, State Board of Education. And so thankfully, I've been blessed enough to serve on the Board of Education here locally for the Fort Worth Independent School Districts. So yeah, most people know what's happening with school boards now. Thank you for all your prayers. They are definitely being felt and we need them. All right. But you see people coming down to school board meetings all the time and they telling us on the school board what it is that we need to do and how we need to be doing things, right? But when all in all, on that local level of the school board within itself, what we're doing is we're overseeing that superintendent. That superintendent is the educational expert within the district that is doing the hiring and the firing, that is placing people, that is over the day-to-day operations of what's happening within the district, and we get to be the board to oversee that in order to be able to put policy in place, in order to be able to approve budget, do these things. Well, you just take that to the step further when it comes to the State Board of Education. And so under the TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency, that's what we all fall under when it comes to education here in the state of Texas. We have Commissioner Mike Morath, who's overseeing the Texas Education Agency. This board, the State Board of Education, falls underneath that umbrella. And these are the folks that are elected. Just like I talked about what we do locally here, they're charged to be able to do that across the state of Texas. So when you think about your standardized testing, when you think about your curriculum that we're getting all across the state and things like that, these are the people who are in charge of implementing those policies and everything when it comes to your education here within the entire state of Texas. And so, yes, so there are some local controls we get here on local school boards to be able to make decisions for certain for our campuses, for our district. There's some controls there that we're able to do, but ultimately we still are under the umbrella of the Texas Education Agency, and there's certain things that we have to abide by because they are state mandated from that. And so the State Board of Education, or those who are on that board who are overseeing those things on a more of that larger level for the entire state. And so we have people on that ballot, but again, like I said, depending on who you are and where you go tomorrow and what your precinct is, you're probably gonna have different people than the one that I have here on the east side of Fort Worth, Texas. So make sure you are doing the homework to find out who's the State Board of Education in which you'll have the opportunity to be able to do it. All right. Now we will move to state senator. All right. So that being the case, we'll let Josh gonna tell us about state senator. What is state senator, Josh?
Sorry, my internet is a little laggy. The state senate is 31 people for representing our entire state. So this is the upper chamber of the legislative body here in our state. There's two chambers. There's one, the Senate and the representatives. The Senate is 31 people. Again, there are, I think it's 6-year terms. I'm not 100% on that. Apologize on that. But they are the people who are checking and balance against just any willy-nilly law passing. So representatives vote on one thing, the state Senate vote on it, and if it passes, governor signs off on it, and they were a big cog in the wheel of getting bills passed.
Indeed. And so we have our senators that we vote for, that we actually send off to Austin, right, as a state. We send off to DC as a state to be able to represent Texas out there, right? But when we talk about the state senators, like Josh is talking about, it's the folks that are right here, still within Texas, that we send Austin to be able to do the same function, but here within the state level instead of that federal level, like we're talking about. So yeah, absolutely. So anything on state senator, fellas, before we move to our next one? Appreciate that. All right. And so next we have our state rep, which Josh kind of talked about just a little bit in passing there, but Elijah's going to let us know what our state representatives do. What does our state representative do, Elijah?
So kind of similar to your Senate, your state representatives are part of that same process, who are sent to Austin to do the same thing, represent you, create and bid on laws that will work for Texas. I had the opportunity to debate all 4 years in my high school career, and I did congressional style debate and actually had an opportunity to go down in Austin and debate in that realm of where state reps come in and different things like that. So it was definitely an eventful process. But one thing that I noticed that there wasn't a lot of people like myself that were involved in that process or took interest in that because it can seem boring. We vote on all type of bills, like I mentioned earlier, legalizing marijuana. And with some of the bills that we've seen, they were bills that, states have voted on or had came through the chamber or had been on the agenda before. We talked about different things like legalizing prostitution, and it's a giving asylum to certain countries. There was actually one where it talked about stop importing avocados from Mexico. And so it's all types of things that come through the chamber that we vote on, that we not only vote on, but debate on. And so that's why it's important that you become a part of this process of voting, because you never know what issues are relevant to you. I know there's been a lot of controversy around the new law or initiative that has been passed by President Joe Biden to the initiative was to give out like clean needles, and people were like, why would he be giving out needles to people? so that, influencing them to do hair and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, you gotta know this, man. But
Hold on, what they really was saying though is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris spent $30 million on crack pipes.
yeah,
That's what it
yeah, but a larger issue at hand. Like one of that was just like the communities around it was like if you don't have access to clean needles, and it becomes a health crisis because you're spreading diseases like HIV, AIDS, and so that becomes another issue that is kind of hard to mitigate because there's no cure to it, right? And so if those numbers are rising and people are indulging in those activities, they're going to do them anyway. So it's important that they do it in a safe way. But anyway, that kind of geared away from the topic. But yeah, that was kind of, what I had a chance to do and why I'm interested in state representatives. I know like the hot topic of Texas has been like the state reps and Senate pass a law for the abortion, and I'm not sure what the exact law, what the name of it I can't remember, but anyways, how it kind of just was saying if you're at least 6 weeks, I can't remember, it was 6 months, whatever, but you can't abort a child. And so topics like that, that's what your state reps and Senate kind of vote and debate on. So
it gotta be 6 weeks. It can't be 6 months. 6 months, you can't abort. That's a full-fledged baby boy.
That baby almost done.
You know what I'm saying? You can a grown man, a grown woman at that point. But yeah. Yeah. Where you go to school at, Elijah?
Where do I attend school?
Yeah.
I attend Wiley College.
Shout out to Wiley College, man. That's what I'm talking about. Because you use mitigate correctly, and I'm proud of you, man. Y'all doing something out there at Wiley. That's what I'm talking about. All right, HBCU. We're going to keep flexing that HBCU education, man, and tell folks about what's next on our ballot, which is the district attorney. So again, here in Tarrant County, which for work with the county seat of Tarrant County, we will be voting for a district attorney. And so Elijah, let folks know, what is the district attorney, man? What they do?
Yeah, so district attorney, again, enforces all of the laws at a district level, decides that they're going to prosecute things as small as stealing a loaf of bread or committing capital murder. And so that's what the district attorney is responsible for. We're seeing a lot of things primarily in the state of Texas and we talked about this, like some people are sitting in jail for tedious crimes for less than an ounce of marijuana, and have been sitting in jail for years and years on that. And this is why it's very important that we not only be involved in the democratic process, but elect someone that will not criminalize a certain community, will not criminalize any community for a loaf of bread that in some instances will be thrown away anyway. And so for little tedious crimes like that, we see some people who are petty about those things, especially in the role of a district attorney, and not just in our district of Tarrant County, but we see a lot of this that has been a trend. And in lieu of Black History Month, I think just historically speaking, it has always been a part of a process to derail and to keep a certain community of people in a category. And so I think, again, that's why it's important. And this is why we're taking the time to educate people on why we should, be involved in races like this. And kind of just like, I'm thinking in comparison to seats that I've talked about earlier, like, the Commissioner of Agriculture, to one like this is one that kind of affects us the most. And the reason I say that is, you can elect your president, you can elect your vice president, your U.S. representatives, but when you talk about change that affects our day-to-day life, it's about being involved in elections like this, because that talks about how things are controlled and how they're handled at home. So yeah, that kind of just summarizes what the district attorney takes care of.
Great job, man. Really appreciate that. And so yeah, I mean, the importance of the role of district attorney really just cannot be understated, y'all. Like, I mean, it really is immense. So particularly when we start talking about law enforcement, criminal justice, and those, I mean, the power that the district attorney holds when it comes to these systems is extraordinary. So, I mean, the police can arrest you and detain you. The police can put forward a report saying, yeah, this is why I pulled such and such over. This is why we arrested such and such, or whatever the case. The district attorney is the one to decide if any charges are actually going to go forward after that arrest is made or after you've been detained by the police. Police, yeah, they can get you and they come in, but yeah, they have to send that to the district attorney office for anything to happen with that. And the district attorney has full carte blanche to throw that thing out or to take it to court or whatever they want, or make a deal or whatever they really want to do with it. So we're talking about an incredibly powerful position for someone to be sitting there making decisions on the lives that affect every one of us. Because whether it's us that ever get in a position where we have to be in front of that office, or we definitely will have had or will have or have family members currently who are affected by that office. That is a lot of discretionary power that office holds. So it is immensely important, the function of the district attorney. So yeah, appreciate that, Elijah. Anything focus on that? Go ahead, Josh.
Well, it's not. In addition to all of those powers that they were saying that the DA can do, it's not just like first off crime. Some of the stuff that they can have control over or representation in is family law, and in situations where they're trying to figure out if they want to keep the child or take the child, if there's a situation where that child might have been abused and it's not necessarily clear, the DA has to send somebody and represent if there was a law challenged or something like that. They also do appeals way, after court cases happen. It goes down to the appeals court, and still the DA office that you currently live in will have to send a representative to say, well, we did this process right. We did this process wrong. We did this process, and hopefully you agree that this charge was valid. So the DA's office never stops being involved in the law from our county's representation.
Indeed. Appreciate
Yeah,
it. So
I'll just
go
add
ahead,
to
Dick.
that too, and I know
Yeah,
you're
please do.
So hiring and firing of assistant DAs, right? So who's representing up under them? I think that's important. And kind of what the DA does, like that's key. And there's also, there's a budget, there are contracts there. Like the list of items that the DA is over. Obviously the main thing that impacts us kind of on a daily is the criminal and kind of things that our family or friends may be around. But if you kind of just go down a list of other things, like I said, hiring, the firing, the contracts, the things that kind of fall up under that person's purview that has to get approved through, and I know we'll kind of go through that too, the commissioner's court, like how all that stuff ties in is key and integral on how things kind of are presented to, and even kind of how the jail system operates. Like those people are in conversation with one another and how they influence things that happen just across the county. So I think that's important to recognize as well.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah, so one last thing for me, since I've come on to Community Frontline, my mom has always taught me the importance of kind of just understanding the values that you align yourself up with. And so for me, it's been kind of trying to get to know what Community Frontline is about. And I guess it's the capital process of me, but I've had to memorize what the mission of Community Frontline is. And I was sitting there thinking, it is to mobilize men to go in and to alleviate the sufferings of their community. And so when we think about that, and we're talking to Community Frontline, we cannot pretend that there are not issues that we face when it comes to the criminal system in Fort Worth and Tarrant County that has for years marginalized a certain group of people. We can't pretend that that's not something that exists. And so as we're imploring you to be involved in this in this process of voting, we have to think about electing someone, and not just in this position, but every position that will be fair, not just for a certain group of people, but for all citizens of Tarrant County. And I just know that that's something that is very important. Because again, like it's something that has been historical to marginalize a certain group of people. And so our mission is to mobilize people to become a part of changing that culture, changing that environment, and changing what has happened for years. And we can do that by simply getting out to vote and encouraging other people to vote, not telling you who to vote for, but voting for what we know the issues are in our community and supporting a candidate that goes against those things that have marginalized a certain group of people, to say the least.
Man, boy, Elijah, woo! I was through offering at you, Doug. Love it. Love it. You repping today, man. You sure y'all campus more than just pretty. Y'all got some substance, boy. Look at woo! Got some brain power behind it. Love it, man. Love it. You're absolutely right. I completely love that, man. So we got a couple more positions to get to before we kind of put a bow on those on the ballots. And there's also some propositions on one side that we want to make sure that at least you're aware of. We don't know which one. If you're going to vote on the Republican side or the Democratic side, we definitely want you to know what's going on each one of the ballots. So the last couple of positions before we do a little bit of wrap up and get to some of the propositions is county clerk and so we got district clerk and county clerk. District clerk and county clerk. And so there's a difference between the two. And so Elijah's going to let us know what a district clerk does. Josh is going to let us know what a county clerk does. So go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah, so your district clerk kind of just focuses on just all of the matters of the district as it relates to and I kind of like think of this role as a secretary, being involved on all matters of what Tarrant County is about, or like Texas is about, keeping up to date on some certain voter matters, issues in that regard. So I'm sure Josh may have a little more. I'm not too well versed on district and county clerks. So
hey man, you got it. It is a very, very administrative in this role. But let's not downplay or think that administrative meaning like, oh, it's just somebody that's got to do the work. No, it is somebody that has to do all the work. Meaning the courts might decide on something or the DA might decide on something, but this person in the role of the clerk actually decides when it happens, make sure it happens by, and I will ensure it, make sure it happens by. This can be scheduling, this can be scheduling a court date, or just when I get my birth certificate back, how long does it take? So some of these processes are people actually putting in policies to figure out the best way to do it. And the county clerk oversees that, or the district clerk oversees that, depending on the realm that you're talking about. So at the district level, it might be birth certificates and child support, stuff like that tries to help you get the stuff processed. And then the county court, it can be, hey, look, y'all coming in to work today, and I don't care if the schools are closed. It can be very simple as that. And these people are the deciding factor of how the county actually moves. This means that the judge actually has to come into work that day. And that can actually be your deciding factor of how fast this process moves. So they are the gatekeeper of the process themselves.
Indeed. Absolutely. So yeah, man. So and then
that's another six-figure.
Another six.
Yes. Yeah, you can make some money doing that. So if you like admin and pushing paperwork, telling people what to do,
yeah,
run for that office.
Since Dante keep mentioning how much these people make, one of the propositions that come up, I'm certain in the city council race for the fourth seat is increasing the salary of the mayor and city council. So
yeah.
They kind of just like increasing that range to about $80,000 a year for those seats, and I think a little more than that for the mayor. So
like 100.
And I think that one's gonna be on the May one. I think that might be one of the ones on the May, because it's not on this one, the primary deal.
Right, yeah, May.
Maybe on that May one, yeah, that's when they'll be able to vote on it. Indeed. And so we also have the county chair, Like I said, locally we have that here. So you have one on each side. So you have a Republican county chair. They have a race going on with two people. On the Democratic side, there's no race. We already have an incumbent on the Democratic side that's already running again. So those are the people that actually runs those parties in the particular counties. Republican county chair, Democratic county chair, and so that'll be on your ballot as well. So those are the positions that are on the ballot, right? And so the ones that we skipped over that we did purposefully is all the rest of these that are on your ballot are judicial seats, meaning that these are judges that you will be voting for. And so the different titles is basically just talking about where those particular judges, where they reside, what courts they see over. But we at least have a working knowledge of what a judge is. Most of us do, right? So even if it's just us thinking of the person in the black robe sitting on the bench making decisions, well, yeah, that absolutely is a judge, right? And so, of course, judges preside over different courts for different reasons, but that same function of what's presented before them, they have to pass judgment on, they have to write a decision, have to levy out whatever the ultimate result is going to be, whether it be in a litigation, whether it be in a trial, civility, whatever it may be, judge is going to make that final decision. So we have a slew of judges that are going to be on your ballot. So you'll be able to vote for a Supreme Court justice. And so, of course, when we talk about federally, Supreme Court justice, the biggest court in the land, that's determined by president, right? So anytime that someone is leaving the Supreme Court, the ultimate Supreme Court of the United States, when someone's leaving there, whoever's president, they get to appoint someone to Supreme Court, and that's a lifetime appointment when that happens. Not the same for your state. As far as in Texas, these are not appointed, even though they can be appointed if someone steps down in term. The governor then has the right to be able to go and appoint someone. But we get to elect our Supreme Court justices. And so you'll see Supreme Court justices on your ballot. Place 3, place 5, place 9. You'll see Court of Criminal Appeals judges on your ballot. Again, so of course you go to criminal trial. The Court of Appeals is what calls the ball. Hey, did you get a fair trial? Did they do right within that? Right. And so it's not even necessarily reconsidering the evidence and things like that. It's like, did when you had your trial, did they treat you fairly? Did they treat you with justice? Did they follow the Constitution? Were the things happening the way they're supposed to do? So when you appeal, so you got Criminal Court of Appeals justice that's going to be on your ballot. You have regular Court of Appeals, or again, not a criminal trial in that particular instance, right? But all those other things that go in front of judges. So you have a Court of Appeals for those. You have district judges. We kind of talked about the district a little bit. So that's talking about just the different places around the state that they would be in. But you got several positions for district judge as well. And so you have a criminal district judge, right? And every time they put the criminal part in there, we're talking about criminal justice at that point. Someone has broken the law, someone is facing someone out of jail time, some type of punishment in that realm. So that's when we start seeing the difference between just those regular district courts or the criminal district court. Then we see that criminal, just understand that now we're talking about crime being committed, some person being in front of the court for those particular things. And so you got family district judge as well. So family court can be that domestic violence aspect of things that happen. It could be child custody things that happen in the family court. Matter of fact, when you think about the 323rd family court, that is the juvenile court. Right. And so when you go in and you're voting for the District 323rd Court, you're saying who's going to be the presiding judge over the juvenile services for the county. So any young person from the age of 10 to 17 that gets in any kind of criminal trouble within the entire county, they would get processed through Tarrant County Juvenile Services. You're voting for who's going to be the presiding judge over that court when you go to the 323rd court for family court. But then, of course, like I said, there's other family court judges you're going to be able to vote for on your ballot when it comes to those as well. You also have county judge, right? And so county judge is one that we might be a little familiar with here because we do have names that are familiar with us that are running. And so this is where we had Judge Glenn Whitley sitting in the seat. County judge functions with the county commissioner's court, right? So we elect those county commissioners and a county judge that functions with that. And so, so that county judge seat is open. On that Republican side, you got Robert Trevor Bucher, Byron Bradford, Betsy Price, Kirsten Collins, Tim O'Hare. And then on the Democratic side for county judge, so as I can find it here, yes, you have Marvin Sutton and Deborah Peoples. And so here you may recognize some of those names you hear locally in Fort Worth and in Tarrant County. Right? And so then you have county courts, different places along the way with that, right? And you have county probate court as well. Now, so when we talk about probate court, we're not talking about probation in that sense. We talk about probate court. Probate court is the one that actually is deciding wills. Is your will legal, or make sure your will is intact. They don't want estates, stuff like that. So we trust. When you start thinking about those things, that's what probate court is. It's not to be conflated with probation, because when you talk about probation, you talk about criminal court at that point. Judges can make decisions on whether or not to give you probation, things like that. But probate court is not that. Probate is talking about wills, land, trust, things of those natures. So we don't want to have to go through each one of those when it comes to the judicial aspect of the ballot. Just know there are plenty of judges for you to vote for. Now, what to bring to your attention is that when you look on the Republican side of the ballot, you got judges running all the way up and down the ballot on the Republican side of the ballot. On the Democratic side, you got some hit and miss here or there. So what that means is that this primary is the end all be all for who's going to be sitting in some of those judges' seats right now. If they win the Republican primary, they're the judge because nobody opposed them on the Democratic side. And there's plenty of positions. Matter of fact, even as we're talking about the sample ballots that we're talking about, y'all, this is the Democratic sample ballot, 3 pages, right? 2.5, really, because a lot of that ain't even, okay, my camera, a lot of that ain't even fill in on this part, right? Republican side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like they filled up. And those are judicial seats. So all the ones that we talked about earlier, there's people on both sides of that. Governor, lieutenant governor, all those dudes. There's people on both sides of the ballot running for those, but there's just seats that's getting filled up, and there's not even opposition to it. They just automatically back in. So that's one of those things that we also want to just be aware of. And it's not about whether or not you're Republican or Democrat or trying to do any of those things, but it is showing that we have people that are basically just getting rubber stamped back into seats or into seats for the first time, simply because no one even stepped up and ran against them. And most and all down the ballot, those are the judicial seats in which you are seeing that occur. So just want to make everyone aware of that, so we understand that this whole process that we're talking about is bigger than just, oh, I get out and vote. It's about educating ourselves on how are people legitimately getting put into these seats and what role are we playing in that. And if we're not running for things ourselves, if we're not encouraging someone to run ourselves, sometimes we actually just letting people take an office and there's no opposition to being able to do so. All right. So yeah, looks like we have a question. Ashton Smith like chimed in. Why would nobody want to run? I'm assuming that's a question. Didn't put a question mark, but it's all good. So with that, why would nobody want to run? So really, brothers, I'll let any one of y'all tackle that want to tackle that position, that particular thing. But starting it off, I would say I don't know how. I mean, some of it sure could be a want, right? Nobody wanted to run. Some of it is exactly like right now. We trying to do our best to educate ourselves, to make sure that our people are educated as well. Some of it is lack of education, that people don't even know these things are available to run for. Some people don't even know what the qualifications are to run for, because there are some judicial seats where, yes, you need to have a law degree. Some of them, you got a high school diploma, you can go be a judge, right? Like the crazy thing is that now, since we have since President Biden is now putting forth a new Supreme Court justice, we've been able to see things on the news as they've been reporting on what that looks like. come to find out, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot of this, and I usually follow history pretty well. There's been Supreme Court justices of the United States of America already that did not have a college degree. They were actually just high school educated and ended up getting a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land of the United States. Right. And so some of it is just even that educational aspect of, I don't even know the positions available. I don't know what the criteria is to be able to do it. And then of course, always lack of resources can always be something like, because it does take money to be able to run. Now, of course, if you got support, that's what you're hoping for. You got support, people want to donate, things like that. The bottom line is, if you don't have money, you got an uphill battle. Particularly if you want to get somebody who does have a war chest, who do have money to be able to put their name out there and to let people know who they are. Everybody's want to tackle a little bit more of that, while somebody wouldn't want to run in some of these seats.
I'll take a stab at it.
I was like, you for the laugh. You for say something crazy, Elijah? Go ahead, Josh.
Some people don't want to run simply because of the biggest thing is, I don't think I can win. Plain, simple fact. I might think I could do it. I might think I might be great at the job. Obviously, a lot of people don't know that these seats are for basically anybody who wants to run. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of these judge seats are people who are wanting to be involved, have an interest, and they take you through the schooling of what you have to learn. And a lot of people, yes, are not educated on what it takes to be. But at the same time, when they hear about running for an office, it's, what are you going to find out about me? Or I don't know what campaigning looks like. That's an issue for a lot of people who don't know how to work the actual campaign cycle and actually get your ideas and message out. There's a lot of reasons that some people won't run, but a lot of them come down to a few simple solutions. Basically, understanding and watching what's happening in your community, creating partnerships and understanding what the community needs, and actually stepping forward to say that this is a problem and I want to solve it. So again, people feel like they're not going to win, typically don't want to run. That can come from on one side of the party, having one side of the aisle having a history of these judge seats. Let's just say it. You saw on the Republican side where they have a history of running for judges. Well, if you are a Democrat, you might not see that as an opportunity because, well, the Democrats don't support that or something like that, just because you don't know. So it's a lot of reasons, but they come down to a few simple ones.
Indeed.
I don't know if Dante was going to make a comment, but I definitely have one.
Yeah,
Go ahead and get in
I'll
there.
go after you. Go ahead.
Okay, I think both of y'all have made excellent points, but I think it stems from a stigma that has been embedded, not only in Tarrant County, not only in Fort Worth, but just in politics in general. And again, that goes to the marginalizing of certain people. There was a time where it was not culturally appropriate or culturally safe for a certain type of people to run for certain things in Fort Worth. And surprisingly, I've lived to see how that has transformed. And I think that, and I would say this, that progression should not be partisan. And we talked about that earlier, but I think that Tarrant County is moving in a direction we're toward progression. And again, like that's a constant fight. And when we talk about progression, we're not talking about partisan, but we're talking about matters that should not be partisan or should not be, based on a certain individual run or a certain group of people, what their needs are. And so I definitely think it stems from that stigma of, just us kind of not running for or Fort Worth being in its own way. And so again, I think we're changing from that and moving to a point where education should be accessible and equitable for all students, regardless if your parents vote Democrat or if your parents vote Republican, right, that you should have access to quality food, regardless if your parents vote Democrat or Republican, and then understanding like what equity is about, right? And so in order to do that, not only do we have to move toward, progressive matters, but also, challenging those that do not want to move from that traditional way of what forward used to look like. And so I think that's what it stems from, and why certain people do not run, because it was a time that it wasn't safe to do those types of things, right? And so we can't ignore the history. But again, I think that we're moving in a positive direction, because we're seeing a turnout of different people who are becoming involved in what the government was created to do. Abraham Lincoln said that the government is for the people, by the people. Democracy, I'm sorry, is for the people, by the people. And so unfortunately, like we have this stigma that has been embedded for us to not be involved in processes like this. And so as we continue to change and become more informed, right? And so Nelson Mandela, I'm hitting y'all with the quote, said, education is the most powerful weapon in which we can use to change the world. And as we become educated about civics, as we become educated and say, you know what, we have missed out on this, or you know what, we have allowed a certain person to come in office who are doing this to our communities. And so someone's responsible. But as our people become aware of it, know that change follows after that. But first, we have to be aware of it. And so again, I think we're moving in a positive direction of that.
Love it, man. Killed it. Love it. D, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I hit it from a couple of practical standpoints, man. I think people don't run for some of what Elijah said, because I think the risk and the fear of being blackballed or mistreated, right? Because it's a thing to, even if you talk about politics, right, and or what side of politics you're on, you can be viewed as a problem depending on where you work, depending on where you live, depending on where you shop. Like people view you a certain way. So even if they view you a certain way for just speaking about politics, if you decide to put some skin in the game and run for something, you're putting your livelihood on the line, depending on if you win or lose, right? And even if you win, you could be ostracized and set aside by certain communities or certain people that once were your co-workers, once were your friends, once were whatever, once you step out and kind of enter into that space. So I think that's the reason why a lot of folks don't run. And along those same lines, so a big reason why I kept saying, that's a six-figure job, or that's this job. And, Elijah's pointing out, hey, the city council and the mayor, there's going to be something on the ballot to increase their pay, right? So if you look at, Q in his position as a trustee for the city of Fort Worth, Fourth ISD, he gets paid $0, nothing. So there is no pay to be a trustee for him, even though it's an elected position. He works, he does things for the ISD, for the district. He gets absolutely no money, right? The current salary, the current pay for a city council person is roughly 20,000, somewhere around there, and the mayor may be 30,000. So you can't live off of $20,000 and $30,000. You have to be able to do that job and speak and be, do whatever it is you're supposed to do for the people, and feed and supply yourself and your family if you're married or if you got kids. So a lot of people don't run because it ain't no money, right?
Can't afford
so you can't make no money. So you know what I'm saying? Like it's on one hand, you're like, yeah, people should run, but on the other hand, who's gonna pay for it and make sure that their family is good? So that's another reason why people don't run for office. So again, when we're talking about these things, we got to be practical in a sense and looking at like how much does it, like as the people, we require a lot out of these positions, not understanding like a lot of these people, especially locally, they don't make a whole lot of money until you get to the county level or the state level is where you start seeing six-figure salaries, or unless you're kind of an admin. So it's really a conundrum when you think about it, because you want people who are for the community, for the people, for that, but those same people really can't run for those. And you look at judges, you know what I'm saying? I think if you look at the Tatiana case, that judge is actually up for election, but no one ran against that judge. So that judge has no one to hold him accountable because he's good. He's got his seat. He's going to be the judge for the next 4 years again. But again, it's stuff like that we have to look at and try to get people to kind of get in these spaces. But we have to also make sure, again, so I'm actually for increasing the pay for city council because it's going to allow for other people, you know, saying this is just our statement, right? So I'm not pushing y'all to do it, but it's going to allow for other people to get into that race and into that position that doesn't have to make or be, you know, financially wealthy to run for some of those seats or have some type of retirement or nest egg and be older. Like you're going to see kind of a variety and a diversity of candidates across the board. So it's just stuff like that. So I kind of went a little bit further, but I think those are some reasons why, some practical reasons why people may not run for office locally or, you know what I'm saying, state or across. So.
No, that was very well said, brother. You right on the money, man. Like I said, when people talk about people not being able to afford to run, may not, like I said, may not have the financial support to actually put an election together. But even in the chances you win, you may not be able to afford to be in that office because make no mistake about it, these are still full-time jobs. Whether you're getting paid nothing, whether you get paid a little bit, like you're not gonna be no city council or mayor of the, 12th largest city in the United States and don't think that ain't a full-time job.
Right.
And $30,000 something dollars ain't no full-time pay for someone who's helping to run an entire city, 12th largest, you know what I mean? So it is, so those things have to be able to happen for real folks to be able to get in the game, because if people are going to support them and get them into office, they got to be able to do the job without do I got to keep this side hustle, this side gig in order to be able to maintain it.
Right? And I think I kind of like you bring up an excellent point because it's definitely not doable with $30,000 a year. But another topic at hand is like increasing the minimum wage, and that's a big topic, not just for elected officials, right? And not only do elected officials need livable wages, but people in Texas, like you
absolutely
these property taxes, we're seeing what rent is looking like, right? And so livable wages is needed, which is why it's important that we vote for people who are not partisan but are progressive on matters like this. Because it's important, not just to a certain population of people, but all of us.
No, but that's exactly. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Y'all were talking about pay. For the thing that comes to mind is the state reps. I always feel for the state reps. State reps get paid like $7,000 total. Period.
200 to be exact.
Yeah, like total. And that's for 2 years. School
boy, they balling. Hello.
Yeah. But they, at least you get to drive down the street to go to work. The state reps got to cross the state.
Touche.
They got to pay for their hotel.
Absolutely. No, that's perfectly said, brothers. And
so let me say this, because I want to touch on a little bit, and it's kind of a lot to go into. But so Brother Austin Lee kind of made a comment about, saying that some candidates get paid kind of on the back end, right? And yes and no, right? So there's a legal way to do that, and there's a not so legal way. But that's why you see a lot of politicians who get in office get caught up, and the feds come after them, and a lot of these things happen because they are trying to make money on the back end, and they end up getting caught trying to make that money, and they're not doing it the right way. But they're doing it because, again, it's a full-time job. They're trying to figure out where they can make money at. And a lot of times they get caught up trying to make money because they're serving the people, but they're not getting paid the money. So it's a real thing that happens. But a lot of folks, and it's a lot of folks that, and I'll just say it, like a lot of black politicians, even here locally, DFW, have got caught up into some of that, and they've been sentenced, or they've been put on jail, or the feds have just come after them. So again, if the pay is there and the money is there, you don't have to do it on the back end. You get it up front, and you can get a lot more valuable candidates running for office. And that's just my opinion on that. So,
no, straight up, no, appreciate that, Dominique.
Right,
and it is a good point. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, so we're gonna get ready to put a bonus thing. There are no propositions on the Democratic side of the ballot. So if you go to vote in the Democratic primary, there will be no propositions on that side of the ballot for you to vote on. However, if you vote on the Republican side of the primary, here are some propositions. Here are the propositions that you will see on the Republican side of said ballot. I'm just going to read them how they literally appear on the ballot. Do with them what you will. All right. So, proposition A. All right. It reads, in light of the federal government's refusal to defend the southern border, Texas should immediately deploy the National Guard, Texas military forces, and necessary state law enforcement to seal the border, enforce immigration laws, and deport illegal aliens. You may vote yes or no. Have fun. All right. Proposition B, if you vote in the Republican primary. Texas should eliminate all property taxes within 10 years without implementing a state income tax. Texas should eliminate all property taxes within 10 years without implementing a state income tax. Proposition B, Republican Party ballot. Proposition C, Texans should not lose their jobs, nor should students be penalized for declining a COVID-19 vaccine. All right. Texans should not lose their jobs, nor students be penalized for declining a COVID-19 vaccine. We'll vote on that on the Republican primary ballot. We have, and it goes to Proposition I. So that's where we're going. All right. So Proposition D, Texas schools should teach students basic knowledge and American exceptionalism and reject critical race theory and other curricula that promote Marxist doctrine and encourage division based on creed, race, or economic status. All right, Proposition E. Texas should enact a state constitutional amendment to defend the sanctity of innocent human life created in the image of God from fertilization until natural death. All right, let's move forward to F. Again, we're going through propositions that you will be able to vote on the Republican primary side of the ballot. The Republican-controlled Texas legislature should end the practice of awarding committee chairmanships to Democrats. The Republican-controlled Texas legislature should end the practice of awarding committee chairmanships to Democrats. All right, looking at y'all faces. Y'all so cool. All right. Y'all doing a good job. Proud of y'all. All right, here we go. Proposition G. All right, Texas should protect the integrity of our elections by verifying that registered voters are American citizens, restoring felony penalties, and enacting civil penalties for vote fraud, and fighting any federal takeover of state elections. I'll read it one more time. Texas should protect the integrity of our elections by verifying that registered voters are American citizens, restoring felony penalties, and enacting civil penalties for vote fraud, and fighting any federal takeover of state elections. All right. So just a few more. We're on H. Texas should ban chemical castration, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and genital mutilation surgery on all minor children for sex transition purposes. Texas should ban chemical castration, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and genital mutilation surgery on all minor children for sex transition purposes. All right, that's H. Let's go to I. Texas parents and guardians should have the right to select schools, whether public or private, for their children, and the funding should follow the student. Texas parents and guardians should have the right to select schools, whether public or private, for their children, and the funding should follow the student. So again, this is talking more about vouchers in education, which Community Frontline will have an education reform down the road. We can get into that a little bit. All right. But right now, you may vote for that on your Republican side of the ballot. Texans affirm that our freedoms come from God and that the government should have no control over the conscience of individuals. All the Capitals put their hands over the mouth of my story. All right, Texas affirmed that our freedoms come from God and that the government should have no control over the conscience of individuals. Gentlemen, front line out there, those are your propositions that if you so choose to go vote on the Republican side of the primary, you will be able to go check C or no on those propositions. Fellas, that's our ballot. That's what we're doing in Texas. I'll go around and I will collect any final thoughts my brethren may have on our political process, what we're going to do tomorrow when we hit these ballots. Joshua Rivers, final thoughts, comments, man, you have.
Well, for those of y'all who have already voted in the early voting process, congratulations to you for being a successful civic. Wait, I said that wrong. Congratulations on being responsible civically. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. There you go. But there's still an opportunity for those who have not. And don't feel like it's too late. You still can go tomorrow. It is just as valid as the people who voted last week. You can still get your voice heard from 7 up and 7 down. So go ahead and get your voice heard just like I am tomorrow.
Love it, love it, love it. Elijah Strong, tell them what it is, Mike.
Vote, vote, and vote. So, yeah, man, go vote. And I think that kind of just in my final words, I know that sometimes it may not seem. In fact, I was having a conversation with my twin brother, and a lot of people don't know I'm a twin. Y'all probably didn't know, but hey, yeah, I have a twin brother.
I in real life did not know that just like that.
Yeah, people tend to tell it like night and day. And so I registered my brother to vote when I registered to vote. And I said, hey, man, you really should go vote. He said, am I going to get any money for it? I said, no, man, just go vote, man. To me, you going to go get some money. I said, let your voice be heard. But too often, I think that's the problem in our communities is that we don't know the importance of voting. So if you think that your vote does not matter, it does. And kind of just like this is our livelihood, and we can have an input on it, and it's all about encouraging. As I've been in kind of like the marketing sector for a while, and one of the things I used to always kind of just tell people, tell people is the reality is someone that I don't know, and I know somebody that you don't know, and so if we both do the due diligence of telling someone to vote, then we're moving a step closer to the things that we want to see within our communities. And so I think that it's very important that we make sure that we get out and vote, no matter how long the line is tomorrow. Just stay the course and go vote.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, good brother. President, what say you, my good man?
Yeah, so let me ask this question real quick. So them provisions that you just read, propositions. Yes. Hopefully people have some provisions. So if you vote on the Democrat side, can you in turn vote on the Republican side for the propositions?
No.
So you have to, if you start voting one way, you have to finish that way.
Absolutely. And
one person, one ballot.
Yeah. So what this is because the assumption is that if you're voting in one of the party's primaries, that you are of that party, right? We kind of talked a little earlier that people can go try to flip and do strategy and all that stuff. But the assumption is that so if you're a Republican voter, you're coming in here to vote on the Republican Party ballot. And so what you're doing is that you're voting on what the Republican agenda is going to be as they move forward. So if they see that they have support from the people based on the ballot for these particular initiatives and propositions, then they now have their marching orders to be able to go out and say that they're running on said things or to try to push these initiatives. Sure. So that's why you see them on the Republican side instead of the Democratic side.
Okay. And so is that the same case come November? Can you vote
So not
Republican
on
or
those
Democrat.
particular ones, only if the Republican legislature in some form decides to decide to actually try to enact these things as law, and they can push it through the Republican House and the Republican Senate, then it can hit your ballot, and then everybody gets to vote on it per se, if they do it that way. But if
So
not, this is just simply the Republican Party just trying to say, hey, we trying to test the waters. What y'all thinking about these? Okay, y'all don't like that? We cool. Oh, y'all like that? We finna go hard on that one.
Right. So this
Go
is
ahead, Josh.
these initiatives are not going into law per se. These are just the ideas of one team or another. This is, hey, y'all voting on if we're gonna run this play. Simply put,
Well,
if we want to run this play or not. Now, I use that word cautiously because a lot of times when a party is in power, they can run that play just from simply saying that is what the people who put me in office said. Now, that's why I use the quote unquote. But you are not going to vote tomorrow on those initiatives. It is just the idea that the Republican Party is trying to pull your where you stand on it. In November, you'll be able to vote on the people, and if there's initiatives in November, those will be local elections trying to pass like laws, actually saying this is what the law will be if there's something on that in that case. It would be this person is voting for or this voting against in November. But these right now, tomorrow is just should we run this play or should we not?
Let me tell you
No,
what
so
KB law. What
go ahead.
KB law is, Texas affirming that our freedoms come from God and that the government should have no control over the conscience of individuals. Now, how you gonna transform that into a lawful house? Beyond me. But okay, go ahead, Dig. I think you should say something else,
Yeah.
man.
So no, I just want so I wanted to ask that question that way to make sure people understood kind of well, because the conversation came up earlier about some people voting in the primary for Republicans and they actually are Democrat, or some people voting Democrat and they're actually Republicans. So just want to understand like that's how that like you can't like go from side to side in the primary, and then like you really want to try to stick to whatever it is your belief is, right? Or whatever it is your ideology, whether it's whatever wherever you lay. And then the same thing comes, in November and and May and wherever else it falls. Just make sure, just understand because it complicates things. And there are some real, like Josh said, there are some plays that are being made. And again, depending on what you believe, depending on where you are, you make that decision. But hopefully everything is being done and is going to benefit all at the end of the day on how things line up. But I just wanted to say that because I think there was some uncertainty or there could have been some confusion on kind of how that plays out. Because you don't want folks going trying to vote on those propositions and then can't vote for, if you are Democrat, you can't vote on the Democratic side because you're trying to vote, for or against those propositions. So just
That's
FYI,
real.
just wanted to throw that out there. So yeah,
But
so other than that, man, just go vote, go vote, go vote. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of said, like Josh said, definitely understand the sentiment of my vote doesn't count. But if you look at the percentages of people that actually vote here locally, that voted in the, like I say, the city council mayoral election, it was less than 10%. So right now, you looking at a city that's ran by city council and mayor that was chosen by 10% of the 900, almost a million people that live in the city. Right now, we're at roughly 8% of people that have voted in the early voting turnout is roughly, I think, 8% last time I looked at it. So, I mean, it'll jump up some come tomorrow. But again, we're going to allow decisions to be made on, 10 to 15% of the people that actually live in this county, live in the state, so just understand like that's what's at stake. That's kind of what we're doing. So if we have these low percentages, we can't get mad, or you can. I mean, you get mad if you want to, but like if you're not encouraging people to actually be a part of the system, be a part of the game, as jacked up as, and again, this is our statement, as jacked up as I believe it is for a lot of us that has been, I think we still have to play our role in order to try to change the things that we can change. If not, then we're just kind of sitting on the sideline, not really getting things done. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, man. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all can, get a piece of this and hope you learn something like I did. And that's just gonna make it happen.
Indeed. Appreciate you, good brother. He's absolutely right. And so, yeah, Dante said it very well, about the sentiment that we have. And truth be told, like I said, we all understand it. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? I'm going to go put these people in office and what they're going to do for me, right? And unfortunately, history has taught us that way too many times, is that we do get our support behind someone and then we look up and our living condition hasn't changed any of things. And so in no way is it to minimize the reality of the situation that has been the case at times. But we also have had some of our most powerful leaders and some of our most powerful movements that has also entailed the ballot box and elected officials. The movement don't come simply from voting, right? And I think sometimes that's where the messaging gets lost. Is like, okay, you got to vote, you got to vote, and so when you vote, done, end of story. And it's like, nah, that's a piece of the movement, right? There's still so much more organizing that has to happen. There's still so much more lobbying that has to happen. There's still so much door knocking, face-to-face interaction, holding elected officials accountable, showing up to meetings, making sure that we're filling out surveys. When we're doing, like, when people are collecting information, all this stuff matters. And then even in the bottom line of it, y'all, when we don't go vote, we have forfeited our opportunity to be a part of the process in so many ways. And one of those very easy examples that we've talked about before, I know here with Community Frontline, is that if you don't go vote, then you don't get selected for jury duty. And then we have a police shooting in our area, or we have an officer that's on trial and things like that. And we look at the jury and we're like, well, shoot, the jury don't look like none of us, ain't none of us there. Well, if we wasn't voting, we weren't even eligible to be on the jury in the first place. So it don't even mean that we necessarily would have got selected again. We're not minimizing what true history has taught us in so many ways about the many different ways we can be marginalized. But the one thing we can't do is take ourselves out of the game before we even begin. Got to give ourselves the opportunity to be a part of what's going on. And truth be told, the marginalized communities come out, as Dante just talked about, the ratings of people coming out, 8%, things like that. If marginalized communities come out and we actually go tackle these ballot boxes and actually go vote, we make the decision on who's going to be in that office, in whatever office it is. And that's how change really start happening, at least at those levels, even though we understand change got to happen in all kinds of levels, even outside of elected office, even in corporate America and some of everything else, y'all. So just understanding that, we're not disillusioned to the fact of, oh, you just go vote and it's the end all be all and everything is done. What we try to do with Community Frontline is understand that the movement has very many layers to it and there's a lot of tentacles. The election process, the voting process is one of those tentacles that we don't want to relinquish. We want to make sure we at that table as well. So thank y'all so very much for being a part of this with us, chilling with us, getting educated with us. I know that I'm better for this conversation. I know I feel a little bit better about me going and cast my vote tomorrow. I like waiting on game day. It feels like Super Bowl for me. So I will be there and you will see me tomorrow casting my ballot because I want to make sure that I get heard out there as well. So please, if you have not, the brothers have already told you, go vote. Make sure that you know what's going. Now you know what's going on out there. So please ensure to be able to do that. We'll get ready to wrap this thing up. Much love. Thank you for being with us today, and we will see you very soon again here with Community Frontline. Love to all.